I need to tell you about the worst mistake I've ever made. One that still lives with me, tucked into every quiet moment I try to forget. I thought I was just being honest, just speaking what I believed was my truth at the time. But I had no idea how deep my words would cut, or how final they would become. Things between us had been shifting for not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a slow, subtle unraveling. We didn't scream. We just started fading. A slow disconnection that crept in like a fog neither of us knew how to swim. We'd been together nearly 3 years, and once upon a time it felt magical, like we were the kind of couple other people looked at and envied. That feeling had begun to dim. Little things started to bother me. Things I couldn't even explain or justify. The way he laughed at old jokes, the way he held my hand, the quiet comfort that used to make me feel safe now just made me feel stuck. I convinced myself we were fine, that all relationships go through this, that it was just a phase. And if we waited long enough, the fire would come back. But deep down I knew it was gone. Or maybe I was just too scared to admit it had changed. One night I was on the couch scrolling to my phone while he clattered around in the kitchen trying to make dinner. Wasn't really present. I hadn't been for a while. He brought me a plate, sat next to me, and for a while we just sat in silence. Then he turned to me, his eyes searching mine with a weight that made my chest tighten. "Are you okay?" I looked at him, and for the first time in weeks I realized how much pain he was carrying. "You've been distant," he said, his voice low. "Feels like you're slipping away from me." He wasn't accusing me. He wasn't angry. He was just hurt. And I could feel it in his words. How much it took for him to say that out loud. And then, without thinking, without truly meaning it, I said something I can never take back. "Maybe we should just be friends." Wasn't a threat. It wasn't even a decision. It was fear spilling out in the form of a sentence I never meant. Felt like a way to pause a conversation before it got too real. Way to protect us from the truth neither of us wanted to admit. Thought, maybe if I said it, he'd reassure me. Maybe he'd fight for us, hold me tighter, remind me of everything we still had. But he didn't. He stood up. Slowly, quietly. No yelling, no dramatic exit, just silence. And then he left the room. I thought he just needed some air. That we'd talk again in the morning. We always did. But the next day there was nothing. No messages, no calls. Told myself he was processing, giving himself space. The second day passed. Still nothing. And then the third, that's when panic started to settle in. I texted. I apologized. I told him I didn't mean it, that I was scared, overwhelmed, confused. I begged him to talk to me. But my messages were met with silence. And then finally a reply. Simple message that took the air from my lungs. "I've been thinking about what you said. And I think maybe you're right. Maybe we should just be friends. I don't think we can go back to what we were." Just like that, it was over. No argument, no drama. Just an ending wrapped in polite words. I sat there staring at the message, rereading it over and over, not because I didn't understand it, but because I couldn't believe I had pushed him that far. I had handed him the exit and assumed he wouldn't take it. Thought saying we should be friends would make him stay, would make him realize how close he was to losing me and push him to fight harder. Instead, it gave him the clarity he needed. He let go. The worst part wasn't the silence that followed. It was knowing I created it. Became desperate. Called. Sent voice messages, pouring out everything I should have said when it still mattered. I told him I loved him, that I made a mistake, that I didn't mean it, but it Was too late. Weeks passed. I stopped calling. I stopped hoping. Quiet between us had solidified into something permanent, a wall I couldn't break through. Then one night I saw him out with friends. He looked good, happier, lighter, like someone who had been set free. I approached him, heart pounding, still holding on to the hope that maybe